Hi, everyone. We're excited to share an integration, really a management pack with you today. And this is really the culmination of many months of work. And today, we're going to talk about what problems we're solving with the management pack, who's it for, and give you a great little demo. So next slide, please, Sri. Next slide. So what are we announcing? Here's the snapshot. We're announcing a management pack. And it was released actually 2 weeks ago. So we're a little behind on this, but it's been out there for about 2 weeks. And it essentially integrates the workflows between Aria Operations and Aria Operations for applications. And really what this enables is a bi-directional set of workflows for operators to essentially troubleshoot triage infrastructure and application stacks running both on-prem and in PC environments. So it's incredibly powerful and allows them to have a deeper view into the Kubernetes platform, as well as the application stack that's running on top of that platform. And in the case of they're running, Kubernetes on top of VMware technology or platforms, they'll be able to have full stack visibility from the hardware through the virtualization up into the Kubernetes and application layers. So it's a powerful view that allows operators, admins, and SREs and DevOps teams to triage and troubleshoot native public cloud and Kubernetes-based applications. Of course, they'll need a few things to take advantage of this. So essentially, they need to have Aria Ops Cloud, Aria Apps, the management pack for Aria Ops apps. And essentially, we covered what this does. It basically gives them a simple way to triage and troubleshoot the stack. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Srihari, who's the real PM and brains behind this, to take you through the tour. Go ahead, Sri.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm really thrilled to be here, to discuss the value of bringing these two of our great products together, Aria Operations and Aria Operations for applications. I'm sure we all know about these products, but let's just quickly define or discuss what these products do to set some context. Aria Operations majors in monitoring, planning, operating, optimizing, and remediating infrastructure in an app-aware context, right? So the infrastructure could be either public cloud or private cloud or both. On the other hand, we have the Aria Operations for applications, which majorly focuses on cloud native and modern application observability. It brings in different dimensions of data, metrics, events, logs, and traces, which is essential to observe the modern applications with the dynamic container environments, right? So essentially, they both have their own strengths. These products have their own strengths. Basically, Aria Operations can assist operators to manage cloud environment, and Aria Operations for applications can assist better to ensure a healthy Kubernetes platform, right? And both of these are crucial for superior application experience for our end users. So with that context about these two products, we actually get a sense that these two products are different in terms of what problems they best address and for whom. And modern businesses need both kinds of solution to feel confident that we cover the management of virtual machines and also the container environments, right? So essentially what we realized was that these two solutions could actually complement each other to solve new customer challenges. And this is what triggered the thought of integrating these two products. So in addition, we also wanted to understand what customers are actually going through. So one of the biggest customers who is successfully using Aria Operations to manage huge data centers and cloud assets, right? They were in fact evaluating Aria Operations for applications, Dynatrace, New Relic for Kubernetes workloads monitoring, right? When we discussed with them, we understood a few things. The infra admin was actually interested in knowing what is running on the infrastructure he's managing, what is running on the virtual machine he's managing, right? If at all a vCenter managed virtual machine was running a Kubernetes environment, or it was running an application or a database or something else, right? Understanding that was actually valuable to him. We can think of it as lightweight monitoring of Kubernetes workloads. So this was one use case, right? In few other cases, the infra admin was also being asked to expand coverage to ensure the health of native public cloud and container environments, in addition to the infrastructure they were already monitoring. So in doing all these, what is their actual end goal? So the end goal is to make sure they provide a stable deployment environment for their application teams so that they meet the SLOs, SLAs, which are promised to the end users, right? And finally, they wanted to improve efficiency, operating costs of the environments they manage, right? So these are some of the goals and use cases they were actually responsible for. But in doing all of this, they faced a lot of challenges. There were too many disparate tools, siloed tools that were required to manage multi-cloud and containers effectively. This in turn results in having no easy way to correlate the infrastructure and container environments, right? They could not plan infrastructure capacity for Kubernetes workloads. In addition, when issues occur, right, it was very difficult for them to deduce where they should start the investigation, if they should start investigating the infra layer or the platform layer, and so on, right? So this causes a series of problems and series of challenges for them. So the question is, can we bring these two products together to solve some of these challenges, right? So Aria Operations, just to reiterate, Aria Operations is best in class for public and private infrastructure monitoring. And Aria Operations for applications provides deep Kubernetes and control plane visibility, right? So now we have this management pack that has the potential to solve some of these challenges. So let's quickly look at a workflow in concept. And of course, we will see this workflow in action through a demo as well. So what this management pack can do, right? You can ingest Kubernetes data from Aria Operations for applications into Aria Operations. And Aria Operations actually has a unique capability, to provide topology relationships that can give a holistic platform to infra view, which is what we call as the lightweight Kubernetes monitoring. And if you need to investigate deeper into the Kubernetes layer, you get the option to launch into Aria Operations for applications in context, which provides deep visibility through metrics, logs, and traces. And finally, an option to launch back into Aria Operations troubleshooting workbench in context, right? So this is the workflow, and you will see all this in action. But before that, let us summarize 3 key use cases. All right. First one is to provide the ability to visualize the relationship of applications and Kubernetes platform with the infrastructure to get a holistic view of the full stack topology, app, platform, infra. Second is providing the ability to identify issues across app, platform, infra layer to understand the problems related to application performance in relation to infrastructure. And lastly, providing the ability to troubleshoot Kubernetes-based applications from infra up until the application to ensure SLOs are met and to reduce MTTR. Okay. So with that, I will hand it over to Tim to help with real demonstration of the capabilities of this management pack and also run through a scenario on how it can be valuable in full stack troubleshooting. Over to you, Tim.
So as we discussed and Matt and Sri talked about, this is a management pack currently for the SaaS-only version as of now, meaning for Aria Ops, only for the SaaS version. As far as getting into and looking at the actual management pack, it's actually pretty simple to deploy. Obviously, we can install it. Once we've got it installed, we can look here real quick at the integration we've got set up already. So all we need to do really is put in our URL, so our Aria Operations for Applications URL, and then we need to grab a token from Aria Applications. So once we put in that token and the URL, we'll start kind of getting that data coming in. If we want to be able to have our bi-directional links, we can also put in our Aria Operations URL, and we can put in a few other advanced settings here if we want, specific metrics or prefixes on our metrics that are coming in. If we want to enable pods, our retentions, meaning if we want to set a different retention than what we've set in our global settings on Aria Operations, we can certainly do that as well. Our query timeout, whether we want to enable those external links that would be coming from Aria Operations for Applications, and we'll get into that here in a minute, and as well as setting our limits on our adapter, our memory limits on our adapter as well. So out of the box, we're going to get a few dashboards that are going to be here we can take a look at. So let's look at some of the dashboards, and then we'll jump into more of a real world scenario after that. So if we look, we have a few different dashboards. We have an overview, we have an alerts dashboard, and then clusters and into nodes. So let's look at these dashboards. They're all a little bit kind of similar as far as it's going to give us the view starting with whatever object we're kind of looking at, whether that be our clusters, our nodes, or an overview, which also is starting at our cluster. So we can move around between our different clusters we have spun up. We're going to see the alerts just for the cluster itself, and then each one is going to look then at the namespaces, give us some metrics. We can switch those around as well. Our namespaces, our nodes, if there's any alerts on the nodes, and then any sort of pods that are running there. And we're always going to get those relationships. If we are looking at, in this case, we've got TKC, so we're calling everything here. So we've got our links to our virtual machine. If we switch over to our EKS cluster, we'll also have links then to our EC2 instance, or I shouldn't say link, our relationship to our EC2 instance as well. So that we're getting then from the Kubernetes layer down to the compute layer on AWS side as well. So the overview is just going to go through then a little bit like almost like an inventory dashboard, where it's going to give us all of our clusters, and we can see everything that is running on each of our clusters from the namespaces, nodes, so on and so forth. We can also then start, instead of looking at just an overview, we can look at the alerts as well, and to start there, if we want to check and see if there's any alerts on our clusters at the moment. So if I just open one of these up, I can click on that alert. It looks like something on our EKS. We got some pod memory on our EKS cluster is having some issues. And then it's going to give us then all of our related infrastructure alerts. So if there's any alerts on, not necessarily the one we've clicked on, looks like it's triggered on actually a service, on our quote service, but will give us the alerts on everything that is connected or related to that specific object we've clicked on. If we click on any of our objects in the relationship widget, we can then get our metrics. And if we click on the metrics there, we can get our metrics below. This also means, since we're now bringing this into Aria Operations, all of the metrics that we have, we can then also use our metric correlation if we want. So we can look and see if there's any other metrics that are correlated with our potential memory utilization on this specific node. Looks like there isn't at the moment. But because we're getting these objects, we can now utilize all of the information, use the tools that are available here in Aria Operations for us. If we switch dashboards, let's go look at the clusters dashboard. This is very similar to the overview dashboard. Still going to give us our relationships and object summaries if we want to look through that, metric infrastructure, metric charts as well. The only difference is we're looking at just our cluster metrics, or if we look at the nodes dashboard as well, also quite similar. We're going to get the nodes as our kind of driving force for the dashboard, all of our relationships. So let's bring up here so we can find one of our nodes. There we go. That one will work. Again, our EKS node is going to give us any information to our EC2 instance. We're going to get alerts, and then all the pods that are running on a particular node. So we can see we've got a few pods here that might be having some challenges with its health. And again, we have metric or object summaries with metric charts, so we can also use for correlation purposes. So this is what is going to be out of the box. Once we've gotten that the integration actually configured, like we looked at earlier, this is what we're going to get out of the box. And there's a few other things we'll run through. I'm going to talk more of an actual scenario at the moment. So there's going to be something that is going to kind of kick off our troubleshooting session, and that could be set up a number of ways. Since we're getting this data into Aria Operations now, that could be potentially through maybe a notification from Slack. So if I look at Slack, we've got our notifications here that are coming through from this particular. Looks like, yep, it's coming through on our EKS cluster. So we have our links to alerts we can do that way. Might be something like this, where we've got something coming in from ServiceNow, and we're saying, hey, there's been some latency detected here. Our OTel app is performing poorly. We know it's running on EKS, and we might have a link to the node or the pod or the cluster or whatever it might be we're trying to look at. In this case, let's go ahead and look at this node that we're pulling up or coming in from the alert. So again, much like we were looking at the dashboards, since we have these objects that are coming in from the integration, and I'll just state that all of these objects, all of the metrics, everything we're looking at today is all coming in from Aria Operations for applications. So this is not using the Kubernetes management pack at the moment. This is a separate management pack, and all of the information we're looking at is coming in directly from this integration, not the other Kubernetes management pack. But since we have these objects and everything here, we can use that again, just like I mentioned earlier. We can look at everything we want to look at directly from here. So since our alert was telling us we're having some sort of issues on our pods, potentially in the node itself, let's look at we have our relationships as well, so we can look at all the pods that are here. I see there are a few just by looking at the icons. There are a few pods that might be having some health challenges that we could look into. If I look at and I see was memory was both in when we were looking at the dashboards, that alert dashboard said something about pod memory, and also our alert said something about memory as well. So I want to check and see if there's anything going on in this node that is maybe out of the ordinary. So if I bring up memory utilization, well, it is trending upwards at the moment. Not very quickly though. If we look at our minimum and maximum here, we're between 34 and 35%. So we're not really. It doesn't really look like the node is really having that much of an actual memory challenge. We're getting those alerts, but I'm not seeing why. Probably on the on the pod itself. Now, again, since we have these metrics here, we can also see, since I don't see anything here on this memory utilization chart, that memory looks fine for the node, but we can use that troubleshooting workbench and look through and see if there's anything else that might be, anomalous, or any events that might be triggering something here. I'm just looking at property changes first. I don't, the middle column here, I don't see anything that's really been changed. We had some name changes, looks like, some IP address changes, nothing too out of the ordinary. If I look at my events, we've got too many containers not running. Okay, that's probably something we want to look at on our cluster. We've got pod memory usage, again, too high. In average memory utilization, okay, drop down. We're actually below our dynamic threshold that's been chosen there. So really what I'm just trying to find out is there anything that is pointing or telling me that the actual the node or our EC2 instance, or virtual machine if we're talking TKG. Anything in our actual infrastructure here is causing us any problems. Now, if I look at anomalous metrics, I see our number of pods has pretty drastically jumped up. We went from 20 or 19 to 48. So that's maybe a little concerning. That is pretty drastic. Our active nodes went from 1 to 2. That's okay. We technically doubled it, but we only started with 1. So doubling isn't so high there. If we those number of pods though, that's pretty drastic from 20 to 40 or almost 50. That's something that might want to look at as well. That seems like a pretty drastic increase. But overall, I don't see anything here that is telling us that there's any sort of memory challenges we're running into. Now we could also change, since we were using Aria Ops, we could change our scope. If we wanted to add in the rest of our infrastructure on AWS, we add in the region, our VPC, our subnet, all of that. We could always add that in there since we have that ability to do so. But I don't think that's much is going to change there. We've got some changes on the actual in the region on AWS, but nothing again too drastic there. So really, what I'm looking at here is I don't see anything that is specifically jumping out at me, saying that it is our infrastructure that is causing any sort of challenges. So I do want to go ahead and double check, and let's look and see if there's anything on the app side. So with this integration, I know the ability, and if we were on different objects, we'd have different actions here under this actions dropdown. If we run a virtual machine, for example, we could set our set CPU, set memory, get our top processes, a whole bunch of different things we could do there. But in this case, with the integration, I can click there, and now I can open up this particular node in Aria Operations for applications. So let's go ahead and do that. It'll launch us then directly into this node. So notice we're on the -189 was our node we're looking at here in Ops. And if we jump back over, we'll notice that it was the same node we're looking at. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. We close this back out and get right back to it. So it's the same node we're launching back into here. We can see that -189 at the top. So now we've got the related source alerts are turned on already, so we can see any of these charts that have any sort of that pinkish reddish color is letting us know there's some sort of errors on it. So if I look here, I can see we've got unavailable replica on our EKS OTel broken. That was that application that we were looking at originally. I'm going to switch back to my email. We've got our OTel app. We knew it was already performing poorly, so now we've gotten two kind of two ways where we can look at it here. We know there's alerts firing on our pods, and we know that end users are having problems. So it's definitely something on the application that we want to check into. And if we look at our memory there, the same kind of thing. We see that there is an unavailable replica on that application. And since this was originally the alerts, if we remember correctly, those were on the pods itself. So I'm going to switch to the pods, and let's take a look at those on this particular node and see what we can find there. It looks like our CPU usage is kind of all over the place. I don't see any big issues there. I want to look at specifically here if we've got any failed pods, because if we also remember, we saw a pretty drastic increase on the number of pods that we had running. It went from 20 to almost 50. And if I look here, I don't see any failed pods, but what I do see is there are some pods that are pending here. And it looks like we're saying they're unschedulable. We've got 0 of 2 nodes available. We've got 2 insufficient memory. So 0 of our 2 nodes are available. We've got no preemption victims found for this for any incoming pod. So it looks like we've got memory issues that are happening, but meaning like the pods themselves are getting hit pretty hard on the memory side, but we've also got pending pods that can't get spun up. So the ones we have spun up are getting hit, and for some reason we have some that are pending. We can't get new ones here. So I actually want to go ahead and check on the service dashboard, and I want to look at this particular application. If we remember, that was the this hotel broken. That's the alert we saw. And I'm seeing, okay, we got 100% errors here. That's probably not great. Our application isn't doing so great. We've got 2 requests a second coming in. That probably is pretty normal. Looks like it hovers around that. But we've also, if we look at our latency here, we've got a duration of 30 seconds. That's probably a bit high. We've got a latency running into instead of seconds, we've got it running now into minutes. With this day and age, a lot of our end users are looking at things, and if they're not getting responses, if they're not moving along, if it's some sort of a shopping cart or something like that they're using online, if they're not getting their responses and getting their answers, within 2 or 3 seconds, they're probably getting frustrated and going somewhere else. Yet alone a minute, that probably is not working well for application. If I also look at our top failed requests here, which is letting us know we've got, if I'm looking, we've got 11,000 here. I'm just looking at the sum. Hopefully everyone can read that number. I know it's probably a little small. We've got 11,000 failed GET requests, HTTP GET requests. And we can look through our slower ones or anything there as well. But for the moment, I want to look at our top failed requests that we have. If we look at our top requests, that number at the top here is matching. We've got 11,000 requests and then 11,000 failed requests. That's not great for our application. Probably why it's something is going on here. So I'm going to jump in and look at the traces here. So this is tracing all of our requests that are coming in. If you notice on the left, we're going to get all of those GET requests we're looking through. We're looking at the top 100 at the moment and looking at any sort of outliers. So obviously these are the ones that we can see by the little arrow at the top. These are the ones that are in the red. They're basically failing at the moment. We can look at that individual request, and we can look at those the tags that are going in. We can look at our application tags. We already know this was part of that cluster. We know we can look at our service. We know the application because that's where we jumped in from. But I want to look at the tags here first and see what sort of tags are coming in on this particular trace or on this particular service. So if I look through, I do see real quick, I see right here, and I'm going to not highlight, but I see a 503 error letting us know there are too many requests coming in. We kind of knew that based on the fact that there's 11,000 failed GET requests, but this basically just confirms that. We've got too many requests coming in. If I look down further, our status description, we've got a max retry error down here. So we're basically looks like we've gotten some pods spun up, and we spun up a lot in the last 24 hours or the last couple hours. We've doubled our number of pods, but we can't spin up anymore. We're basically running out of memory, running out of room on these nodes. We can't spin up anymore. Now, technically, Kubernetes should be able to kind of auto scale that and go to another node or switch to another node if it needs to. But maybe that's something we would want to look at, or maybe talk with our Kubernetes administrator. It's possible that all of our pods we're trying to spin up have some sort of an affinity for a specific node, or maybe we've got that set up. But I think that's what it looks like to me. If I jump down again, we see our tags and our log traces, or a stack trace back. Sorry, I couldn't get it out. The same kind of thing we're seeing. We're trying to create these connections. We're setting up new connections, trying to connect them, and we're timing out. We've hit this max retries. We're trying to. I would imagine these are trying to spin up new pods that we're not able to do. We're not able to spin anything up. So again, we probably want to talk with our Kubernetes administrator, find out if there's anything that is going on that is maybe looking. All of our new pods are trying to find a specific node and figure out there might be some sort of configuration error we just need to clear up. But that kind of goes through a scenario we started in operations, our Aria operations. We've looked at the infrastructure there. Didn't seem like there was any sort of anything that was standing out for us. We jumped over to applications, Aria Operations for applications, looked through and kind of found out what it was that was going on. Too many pods are trying to get spun up. We don't have the memory for it, and so we're not spinning up anymore, causing our error rates, causing our latency. The pods we have out there are just getting hit too hard. So that kind of ends that scenario. Now, if we didn't find anything, let me just jump back to one of our dashboards here. If we didn't find anything, or if we happen to be here and we see something in our operations for applications that maybe we didn't like, we want to double check if there's any sort of errors on the infrastructure itself. If we've already cleared the application, that there's nothing on the application in maybe a different scenario, but we want to check on a specific node or cluster from the application side. We can find whatever one we want to look at. Let's just say we want this to be this RKE, this Azure. We have our external link here, and if we right-click on any of the charts, we're going to get these external links here. So really, anywhere we want to look at any of these spots, we can right-click on those, and then from there we can go ahead and, let's say I want this GKE. I can jump back in to Aria Operations and sort of launch back into us, and we'll launch that in context then with that particular node. We're back on that GKE node that we just were looking at, and now we're here in the troubleshooting workbench, and we can continue our investigation. If we again saw something in the application that we want to check the infrastructure, we can do that and check that from the troubleshooting workbench, or go back to the particular node itself, see if there's any sort of alerts on the node itself, or go back to our dashboards that we looked at the beginning. So that's all I wanted to cover today. I'll stop sharing and I'll let Sri share real quick. Just to cover, there's one slide to cover. Sri, if you would share that slide real quick here. So just to go over real quick, as far as kind of what we looked at, what we're looking at, I think I covered most of this that might be on the slide, but we do have from the object browser, we are bringing in clusters, namespaces, deployments, the replica sets, the nodes, and the pods. We do have metrics for nodes, namespaces, and clusters. We do have alerts then as well that will come in on nodes as well as pods. For those respective nodes, the respective pods, we'll get the alerts that we can bring in and look at. The topology view, we kind of looked at it a couple different things, both in dashboards as well as from the metrics on the object summary page. So we looked at the topology view. We can see that the objects that are coming in are all going to be interrelated, as well as in the case of TKG or EKS, will be related to the VM or to the EC2 instance. We did look at those dashboards. There are then alerts that we can look at from the troubleshooting workbench, or looking at the alerts tab. And then the bottom one, looking at our bi-directional link, right? We can launch from Aria Ops using the actions dropdown, or we can go from the external links when we right-click from the Aria applications.